Hello and welcome to this episode of the GrowVC Everyone Funding Starts podcast. Today I'm your host Markus, and as most of you know, I haven't been on the air for a while, so it's a pleasure to be back every once in a while. We've also done some recent edits to our podcast process in order to make it as scalable as possible, and also in order for us to be able to deliver the best quality with the best guests in the program. So that's taken a little bit of a back-end work from our end, but that's something that you have to do every once in a while in a startup. So today we're talking about the Networks program, which many of you might be aware of and knowledgeable about. But currently we're running the Networks program with, I think, roughly 150 partners at the moment, and we're bringing on new and excited partners almost every day. So I'm here with Paul Higgins, who's actually based in London, and he's the person from our team who knows the most about the Networks program, who coordinates it and manages everything that's kind of related to the inner workings of that program. So Paul, welcome to the show for the first time.
Hi Markus, thanks very much. It's great to be here.
So how about we start off with a little bit of a background to yourself, since you're new to the podcast and obviously the Networks partners know you, but I think it's good to get a little bit more on your story from your side.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, I'm based in London, and I've been helping out with GrowVC since the beginning of the year, beginning of 2012. Now my background is really in a mix of kind of technology and marketing roles. My degree originally was actually in technology, computer science, and philosophy. And then after that, I worked in a couple of technology roles at IBM and a couple of the major banks in London. And then I kind of switched over to the business side and worked at eBay and their marketing team for a little while. Then I found myself getting into the startup world. This was about 5 or 6 years ago now. I started working for an organization called Rapid Innovation Group, which consults and advises for tech startups around the world, helping them on scaling up from the kind of the early startup stage all the way through rounds of funding and through to some sort of exit. So my experience is in business development and sales and marketing and strategy and those kind of aspects of growth stage, expansion stage startup companies. Sort of in the last year or two, I've been quite active in writing and blogging about entrepreneurship and technology startups for a variety of business and technology publications. I've written for quite a few VCs and angels blogs around the world. It's great to be involved in a project like GrowVC, which has such a potential, I think, to really improve all of that industry and that ecosystem.
And I think you fit particularly well into our global team because of your global background. I think it's something that we could also pick at a little bit, because I know, for example, that you speak multiple languages. So what's the background there?
Yeah, so I actually after university I went off to live in Portugal for a year. I have a family background in Portugal, and I wanted to go and really learn the language. So I went over there for initially a few months to go to a language school there and pick up some of the basics, and then I worked for a tech startup there for about 6 months, based in Porto in the north of Portugal. But in my kind of work as an advisor to startups, I've also been taken around the world. I've done quite a bit of work in Paris, working with French startups. I've spent some time in Scandinavia working with startups in Gothenburg and Copenhagen in particularly, and a lot of my a lot of the companies that I've spent time with have really had a global target market themselves. So I've worked alongside companies that have been based in London or based in Paris, but whose markets have been genuinely global, selling to the major telcos or the major kind of oil and gas majors, for example. For those companies in those sorts of markets, you can't afford to just focus on one domestic market. Your market is global in nature. So as a result, I've been able to experience doing business in places like Brazil and places like China as well, which are more and more important to any kind of entrepreneur who wants to create a really valuable business.
And simple at that, right?
Mm.
So I think that's a great aspect in terms of our team at GrowVC, that most of us and many of us have been all around the world in terms of different roles, different cultures, and seeing kind of the inner workings of many different regions, which is of course invaluable in this space because, well, working with a global ecosystem, that's something that, well, it's not simple, put it that way. There are complexities to different cultures and so on. So let's look a little bit at the Networks program. I think before going further, we can elaborate maybe a little bit about what the Networks program actually is. And in a way, the Networks program is kind of a bridge to get organizations that have interest in the startup space connected on a platform like incubators, accelerators, universities, and various other different types of groups like even funds, traditional finance sector, and whatnot. So let me actually throw that at you, Paul. In all simplicity, what do you think the Networks program is about, and who is it the most suitable for based on your experience with these partners?
Yeah. So I mean, I think the big idea behind the Networks program was we wanted GrowVC to become the genuine vision of a virtual Silicon Valley. This concept is something that I was really attracted to when I first came across GrowVC. Is that if you are lucky enough to be able to go to Silicon Valley, you have access to potential co-founders, to investors at every stage, seed stage, angel stage, VC stage, and above VC. You have access to experts and to lawyers who are used to working in the startup area, and you have access to the best expertise, the best kind of support networks that there are in that region. And what we're trying to do with the Networks program on GrowVC is to allow entrepreneurs and allow startups to get the same access and the same the same connections that those companies in Silicon Valley would have, but where possible wherever you are in the world. So the Networks program is really designed to find partners who are adding value or providing services of some sort to the startup ecosystem. Typically, it is organizations like the ones you mentioned, incubators, accelerators, angel networks, universities. These are a crucial part of the support network that startups need and that entrepreneurs need as they go from the very early kind of idea creation stage and product market fit stage through the scaling up and through really becoming a proper business. So in essence, the network program is about creating a community within our global community, communities that can be organized and run by these partner organizations, these incubators or universities or entrepreneurship groups that can provide certain value or provide services to their own members and to the wider community of GrowVC globally.
And I think what we also find with many of these partners that we work with, I mean, there's about roughly 150 of them at the moment, and these include various different various different groups. Like, for example, we work with Startup Weekend to get continuity into their kind of these events when people actually want to take their initiatives forward. That can bring continuity and structure the relationships. At the same time, we work with the Techstars network because many of their accelerators